Welcome, everybody. We're super excited to be able to host this call. Both Grant and I, we've been for our clients, that what we've been doing, we met this past, I think it was earlier this month now, time's really flown, to be able to get together, plan out what we want Grant Chafee to be. A big community, or a big element of that is adding a community element to our existing program. And then we find that we get a lot of energy and just like to share any additional value that we can provide to people, whether that's a lot of times with existing clients, and then for others that aren't current clients, just to be able to provide as much value as possible with stuff that we really give us energy and things that are exciting for us. And for that, it tends to be within the health and fitness realm. So we're excited to be able to do that with you today. We appreciate you joining, appreciate the time. Today, topic that we're going to be covering, and Grant's going to be leading most of the exercises. It's just getting really clear on your summer vision and really like the role health and fitness plays in there, and backtracking, talking about the whys, the hows. Some of you have gone through exercises like this, some of you have not. But I think it's really valuable, even if you've done it with health and fitness, to be able to revisit it, because as most of you know, regardless of where you're at in your fitness journey, these things constantly evolve. And your focuses tend to change. They can be large changes, small changes. But I think especially with summer quickly approaching, it's great to be able to refocus. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Grant. I know he has a lot to be able to share. I'm going to be going through the exercise with you as well. I think Grant's going to be going through some of his goals too. So I'll let Grant go ahead and get things started.
Thanks, Connor. Real quick, I just want to say thank you. And I have a lot of respect for you carving time out of your busy schedules to take time to learn, to grow, to focus on you. So Derek, Dalton, Paige, Kira, which you always throw me off with the change Zoom name. And I'm like, hold on a second. That's not someone I know. Zaid and Philip, thank you all for taking the time out of your days to invest in you. And I have a massive amount of respect for that. And I'm also honored to be able to deliver value to you here today. Topic of the day, as Connor mentioned, is goal setting and vision around health and fitness. And you can use this as a timeline for the summer. And some of it definitely is going to be related to summer, and some of it's more general, as I've been thinking a lot about my health and fitness. Some of my goals line up with start of the summer. I also have an event in September that I'm preparing for, and then some of them are just by year end that I'm wanting to accomplish for me. To lay a little structure to what and how I'm going to cover content today, I'll start off by mapping the course and how I've approached goal setting for the past 10 years or so. Something I've learned from one of my previous coaches outside of the world of health and fitness. I'll give you some prompts for reflection and some space to do that reflection. For those of you that are clients, you've started along this journey, and this is a great opportunity to do two things. One is to expand on that foundation, and two, like Connor mentioned, revisit and review that foundation. We'll create some space for shares, so you can share with communities, share with others. And I'll also share some of my thoughts and reflections along the way. If you've ever picked up a self-help book or a book relating to personal development, you've definitely heard something along the lines of, you're much more likely to accomplish your goals that you write down. And that's true. What I've found that's better than writing down goals and then letting them disappear in a desk drawer, never to be seen again, is reviewing, revisiting, and refining those goals on a regular basis. Maybe that's once a month, maybe that's once a week, maybe it's daily. That's kind of for you to decide. I've found personally that the goals that I do review on a daily basis tend to get attention, and they tend to progress on a daily basis. The last thing I'll say before we dive in is fitness is one of those things that is very much unlike your college final exams. You cannot just cram. And trust me, I'm not one of those teachers that says like, hey, you can't cram for this exam and then you can cram for it anyways. Health and fitness, like I've tried many times to cram and have a push period before a vacation or some type of event. And I can tell you the progress that sticks is progress that is built and attended to over months stacked on top of each other. It's not a couple week push period and a juice cleanse before that vacation. With that being said, you can also make progress quickly, and really it's about chunking it down, and we'll get to that a little bit later. All right, so mapping the course. Some of you may be familiar with the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And the person that taught me this concept was a previous manager. He was a coach. He was a mentor to me. He taught me that when people set goals, they often skip a very important part, a very important step. He taught me that most people, when they set a goal, they start with the what, and then they go to the how. And that very important step, and you might be able to get it from the name of the title of the book, or the title of the book, is the why. So the course for today's goal setting, and you may want to jot this down just so you have the flow of how this will progress, is we're going to look at the why first. And if you want to make a quick note next to why, we're going to look at the why at a macro level. So the structure that I've found really effective is we start with why at a macro level. That's step one. Step two is looking at the what. Step three is looking at the why at a micro level. And then step four, and we'll see how much we get into this today, is looking at the how. So we'll start off with the first step, why. And the prompt that I want to give you, and give some space for you to reflect on, and then we'll have some time for shares, quick shares, is why is my health and fitness important to me? Why is my health and fitness important to me? And you may want to consider the short-term answer and the long-term answer. Why is my health and fitness important to me? And if you're still working on that, go ahead and keep working on that. It's a pretty deep question that covers a lot of ground. The next question that I have along the same lines is, what is the consequence of me not taking care of my health and fitness? And you can look at these questions through different lenses. How does this impact you professionally in your career? How does it impact you personally? Maybe that's your relationship with friends. Maybe it's relationship with family. Maybe it's a relationship with your significant other or potential significant other. How does this impact your relationship with your kids or maybe future kids? How does this affect your relationship with the man or the woman in the mirror? How does it affect your energy? And I see a bunch of people writing, which is great. Keep going if you're still working on it. The last question that I have in this category is, why does this really matter? And there's a book that has not come out yet. It is coming out, and Connor, thank you for the reminder. I do have my pre-order in, and I ordered a copy for my parents as well. And it's called Outlive by Peter Attia. And Peter Attia is a very well-known doctor, and he has done a deep dive into the study of longevity. And one thing that he talks about that I find really fascinating is, and I always mess up the name, I always call it the Centurion Olympics, but it's actually called the Centenarian Olympics. Is that right, Connor? Centenarian Olympics. And basically the concept is, what do you want to be able to accomplish in the last decade of your life? I don't know, Connor, if it's technically like at 100 years old, or if it's just the last decade of your life in your 90s or whatever it is. And he talks about like, what's going to matter to you then? And for a lot of people, for me, like, I want to be able to play with kids, grandkids. Well, my kids would probably be a little bit older at that point, but grandkids, maybe great grandkids. And it uses the example of being able to pick up a grandchild or great grandchild at a much older age. And then it's about reverse engineering that, like, if you want to be able to do this at 90, well, what do you have to be able to do at 80? Right? Assuming that there's probably going to be some decline there. Right? What do you want to be able to do at 70? What do you want to be able to do at 60? And so it's taking a much longer point of view. Like, if you take care of your health for the next 30 years, what do the following 30 years look like? Right? Because I've been at points in my life where it's like, wow, I can lift a bunch of weight right now. How does this change anything for me? And that's taking a very short-sighted viewpoint. And that's not to say that you need to be, an Olympic powerlifter by any means, but it's thinking about, why are these things important? And it's coming to decision-making that's important for you, not important for me, not important for Connor, not important for anyone else, but it's important for you. And it's a well thought out set of whys this matters. That's what I've got on whys at macro level. We do have some time and space for shares. We can kind of go round robin. You're not obligated to share. And these can and should be really quick, meaning like 10 to 15 seconds kind of tops. Would anyone like to kick us off here?
Yeah, I had two important whys for me. Number one is just saving money, because the cost of illness later is much greater than right now. And that ties into my second one, which is choosing my heart. I'd rather work hard now for my health and fitness versus older when I have less energy and I'm not as healthy.
Dalton, it's a phenomenal and very well thought out response. I appreciate you sharing, and I very much appreciate you leading things off here. Thank you. Anyone else like to share? Connor, you're welcome to jump in here as well if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, briefly, I echo a lot of the Centenarian Olympics, like picking up grandkids, being able to play. I think another underappreciated part that I know physical health plays a part in, and diet nutrition, is just cognizance of being able to be with it as I'm older. knowing my family history. I think that's important when you get into medical stuff. That's something that Peter Attia talks about, is like being able to screen for and mitigate a lot of the family risk that you have. And I don't need to go into that. But I know for me, just being with it as I get older, that's very, very important to me.
Thanks for sharing, Connor. And if you could potentially mute our new guest, that'd be great. Thanks. Anyone else like to share? What's up, Z? Good to see you.
I can share.
That'd be great.
I feel like I have a lot of whys, but one of them that I've been thinking about is just like being able to inspire other people that it's like possible to be healthy and like fit and not in like a super complicated way, I guess, like in an achievable way.
Yeah, like what is the consequence of you being an exemplary form of fitness or as a human specimen on everyone that you interact with? That's massive. Like even lifting with Connor and just seeing, I was like, man, like I'm capable of more. And that's such an important role that people play, and that you have the opportunity to play in the lives of everyone that's important to you. So definitely thank you for sharing that. Anyone else like to share on whys?
I'll go. I want to be able to do a lot of the things I can do now when I'm much older, like in my 60s, 70s, 80s. But I'd like to see like what I can still replicate now, or replicate then that I can do now.
100%. I got lunch with my mom today, and Zaid popped by the gym, and Zaid is also able to see this. And my mom did 6 chin-ups, and that is the most chin-ups that she's ever been able to do in her life thus far. And I personally was amazed. And we talked a little bit about how she's gone about that process. And we've talked about how to progress over time. And also, like, I know this, I don't even think my mom knows this, but like grip strength is a really, there's a strong correlation between grip strength and longevity. And so for me, like, I see that and I'm like, that's great. Also, I'm really happy that I feel like I've had a positive influence on that. And then my mom being in better shape is going to push my dad to be in better shape, and it's going to push my brothers to be in better shape. Right. And that just has a ripple effect that's really hard to tangibly measure. A lot of times, like I play Chicago social sports, and a lot of times on the softball field, I hear like, oh man, we're getting older, from like 25, 26, 27, 28-year-olds. And that is true by a lot. Like numerically, we are getting older. And also a lot of the aging process is very much a choice and is very much based on habits and decisions that we make on a regular basis. Thank you all for sharing. Would anybody else like to share why before we move on to the next part? No obligation, invitation. All right, we will move. The next is the what. So we've talked a little bit about why pursuing health and fitness and why challenging ourselves in this respect is important. The next part is to set some intentions. And when it comes to setting intentions, I encourage you to think big. When you set a goal, it's really important to come up with something that's compelling enough to go after, right? If you set a goal too small, it's not compelling enough to go after. When you set a large goal that's lofty, that's scary, it has a different place in your life. And it should trigger a little bit of fear, but it should also be like, gosh, this would be amazing to be able to accomplish. And so I'll share some goals that I have. And this can give you some prompts, and it doesn't have to be aligned with my goals at all. But really, there are three types of goals. There's process, there's performance, and there's outcome. Right. And the way that I define those in terms of fitness is process is like your inputs. That's your habits. That's, hey, I work out 5 days a week. That's, I track my nutrition 6 days a week. That's, I have a protein shake after a workout, whatever it is for you. These are just examples. That's not the right example or the wrong example, but they're process. They're the inputs. They're the actions. The second type of goal is performance. And performance is being able to accomplish a specific task. Maybe that's hitting a certain number for a lift, or certain time for a run, or certain, certain splits on a swim, or whatever it is, a certain pose in yoga, right? It's being able to actually achieve a feat. And then the third type is outcome. And some of the performance goals can be outcomes, but when I think of outcome, when it comes to health and fitness, I'm thinking a lot more like the physique, right? How do you look in the mirror? Maybe those are specific measurements. Maybe it's a weight on a scale. And so those are the three types of goals around the what. And a lot of things like this, the centenarian Olympics, that can be under the performance outcome. So the question that I have for you is, this year, by the end of the year, what would you set out to do if you knew you could not fail? If you just took your limits and you just set them aside for a second, what would you set out to do if you knew you could not fail? How would you look? What would your body be capable of? What would you weigh? And by the way, I know weight's not everything, but you've got to weigh something, and you might as well be intentional about it. I'll give you about 30 to 60 seconds to just do some reflection on this, jot down a couple things. Z threw me off a little bit earlier when I saw the fridge. I was like, hey, that's my fridge. I'm like, wait, no, it's not.
Thought I was inside your unit, brother.
Yeah, I was like, how'd you do that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I a hot tub, and I thank God for the text messages, because then I was reminded. I totally forgot about it. So thank you, guys.
No problem. Z and I live in the same building, for those of you that are like, how did that happen? What are you talking about? And then as you come up with this list of what's, I encourage you to just throw stuff to paper, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be everything that you're committed to going after this year. In fact, we'll look, when we get to the hows, we'll look at which ones we really want to pursue. The reason why it's really important to get them all down is because then you can select, hey, these are my priorities. These are the ones that I'm pursuing above all the others, right? If I accomplish these 1, 2, or 3 things, like that would be a win for this year. And I'll walk through mine at a really simple level. So I have an event coming up this year in September, and I simply want to complete it in the allotted time, right? It's like the speed of it does not matter to me. But the intention is to complete Ironman triathlon in 16 hours or less. I think 16 hours is the limit. I don't think you can do more than that. And so that's a really important goal. And that's my number one goal for the year. There are other goals that I have that are associated with strength. So I have a bench number, I have a squat number, I have a deadlift number, and then I have a body weight number. And we'll talk a little bit as we get to the how, we'll talk a little bit about how those things work together or work in conflict and how you can kind of pursue those things simultaneously or how to prioritize. Now, as you've thrown some of these whats to paper, the next step is we're going to go back to the why, but we're going to go back to the why at a micro level. So not why in terms of why is health and fitness important. It's like, why is this specific goal important? And I'll share with you some of my goals right here. So I wrote down, I'll actually just copy paste these into the chat, but I wrote down bench 315. Gosh, it's kind of scary to say this stuff because Z can see me in the gym all the time. And so now I got to be able to execute on this stuff. So bench 315, squat 405, deadlift 495, complete an Ironman, and then body weight of 175. And so I've set these out and I have individual whys for each of these goals. So for bench 315, for me, that's been a dream forever. I remember seeing like in high school, I remember seeing offensive linemen or linebackers that I really looked up to when I was younger. And they were hitting these types of numbers. And I remember thinking as effectively as a kid in high school, thinking, gosh, I will never be able to do that. And for me, that bench number, it feels impossible. And I also know that through progress, I can accomplish it. And for me, I need to reinforce that lesson of what feels impossible is often feasible if you break it up into chunks. Squatting 405, like there's a very direct correlation. So I need to increase my leg strength to be able to generate more power on the bike, to be able to bike faster, to be able to complete an Ironman. Right? I also really love biking. I also appreciate that I would be faster in Chicago social sports, right? So I'm stacking whys at a micro level. Deadlift 495. For this one, it's not actually that far off of where I'm at. I know that I still have more left in the tank. So this one, I don't have like a super deep reason why. It's just like the next level of progression. And this one I feel the most confident about. Completing an Ironman, this one for me is like, this is probably a once in a lifetime event. I don't quote unquote like cardio training. And I also know the consequence for me of triathlon training is I feel superhuman being able to run around the city, right? I love that I can live in Streeterville, like a mile and a half or so away from Union Station. And I can say like, oh, the train leaves in 16 minutes. I can just run over there super quick and make the train. Even when I'm not wearing, like proper footwear. Like I love that I have that capability. I like getting a text message from friends and they're at a beach 2 miles away. And I'm like, great, I'll see you in 15 to 20 minutes. Right? Like for me, that's so valuable. And then body weight of 175. I know that for me, 175 is a good combination of strength. And it's a good combination. And this is different for everybody. It's a good combination of strength, but also like I feel light, I feel fast, I feel agile. And so that's kind of the sweet spot for me. And I generally have a range. It's 170 to 175, which allows me some fluctuation, which is going to be natural. So the question that I have for you, and that's two parts. That was the what and the why at the micro, is just like, hey, what are some goals that are compelling for you? Then you don't have to share your why. You're welcome to share a why. Let's do keep the shares to 30 seconds tops for this. I'm guessing we probably won't have time for everybody, but we'll have time for a couple. Anyone like to kick us off?
I have a small one. I want to be able to do a backflip. This is a performance thing, and I've done it before when I was in college. For those of you who don't know, I was a cheerleader in college. And I want to be able to do it again because there's this big mental block of doing it right now, and just being able to do it at whatever weight I carry and be able to consistently do it. It's really just like you were saying, proving to yourself and showing that you can. And this is like a big mental block thing of just doing it again. So getting through that.
It's great. Thanks for sharing. Backflips seem really scary to me. That will not be on my list this year. Z, what do you got?
I guess one of my goals is just always I guess be good at running. When the summer comes, I'm a runner. I'm outside, but when I'm indoor, when it's winter, I'm indoor, and I do not run on treadmills. I'll do it for a little bit for like sprints, but I don't do 4 miles on a treadmill. I barely even do one. But for me, running is always one of those things that has always helped me change my body and lose a lot of belly fat. And my joints, for some reason, have always been okay. I did twist my ankle the other day playing basketball, but that's not from like just running outside. So I got to let that heal a little bit before I get back out there. But yeah, running's just always been one of those things that it scares me if I could never run again, because I can forego the gym, I can forego lifting weights, I could always do push-ups, and but if it, I just want to continue getting better at running and then always be able to have a healthy body and healthy mind so that I can always do that. So
when you think about thanks for sharing, by the way, when you think about being good at running, what's a metric or a measurement that would tell you, hey, I'm good at running?
It's just me beating my time from the last run that I did. It's not necessarily me comparing myself to like, an Olympic runner or whatever. But it's just me going out there, testing what my mile looks like, and then testing what my 2 miles, and then 3 miles, and then 4 miles, and eventually getting up to 10 miles, which I've done before. But as we all know, working out, especially running, if you don't do it, it's hard to get back into it. You just gotta, but the only way to get better is to just do it. So that's my metric.
Yeah. What would be a mile time that would be really compelling to you?
Whew. Right now, I can do 4 miles in about 30 minutes, 32 minutes on a bad day. So those are like 7-minute mile, 7:30, 7:40, somewhere around there. But if I can get that down to like 5-minute miles or 6-minute miles, that'd be insane. But those are like elite, runners that are doing that. But that's always like kind of in my head, like, damn, how cool would that be? But I don't think I train hard enough to do that.
It's really interesting, by the way, what you share it. And then this is, by the way, something we all do. So I really appreciate you sharing, because this is like a good opportunity to be able to make an observation. So yeah, I know, like I've seen you work out. You absolutely could run 4 miles in sub 25 minutes. If that was your mission, you could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Sub 28, right? So I think sub 28 would be a really great benchmark to go after, where you're sub 7-minute miles for 4 miles. And also right now, currently, there's a part of you that almost doesn't believe that that's possible, even though intellectually it's possible. Every time you said it, you said, but right afterwards.
Right.
And so, because that's a bigger goal, right? So like some of these goals that I have written down are bigger goals. Like that number right there, the 315 is really scary to me.
Mm-hmm.
But this is less scary. Right? It's like it's a smaller piece of progression over a shorter period of time. Because I know if I can just improve a little bit, right? And you actually said it perfectly, which is improve over yesterday.
Right.
And if you stack that over time, right, you might not be running 4-minute miles, right? Now we're getting to like capacity of human potential. And you're not a full-time runner, right? Like I'm probably not going to be hang cleaning 500 pounds anytime soon, even though there are people that do that on Instagram, which I still have a hard time wrapping my head around. And you can definitely progress. And so I invite you to pick a time and a date and just build little by little by little by little. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Who wants to share next? I'd love to get like one or two more whats. Maybe just one more what. Derek and Dalton, I can see you too, so you might be put on the spot.
One of my what's is just to get down to 175.
Awesome. What are you at right now?
As of this morning, 190.
It's great, man. I'll do that with you. You want to set up a timeline? We'll pursue it together.
I'm down.
175 is my fighting weight.
I would love to get the 175 as well. Just want to say that.
It's great, man. I'm happy to have a conversation. I'll be 175 poolside this summer.
That'd be nice.
So the last part is how. And the question is, how are you going to do it? There are two parts that go into this. What are the actions that you're going to take? And what is the timeline that you want to be able to hit these specific things? And as you review your goals, right, just pick one that's most compelling to you to start. And then you can do this with the others after this session, because we'll probably run out of time. So I'll use Ironman, for example, in September. For me, I need to reverse engineer that. So I have a date, a weekend, a Saturday in May, where I'm scheduling for myself a half Ironman. Right? I have a date, a weekend in April, where I'm scheduling myself an Olympic tri, which is about a half Ironman. And so I've got those benchmarks set out, right? For bench, I've got my April 1st number, my May 1st number, my July 1st number, all the way through September 1st. I think I skipped June. Did I skip June? All right, well, I might skip June. Right, and so I've got the numbers mapped out. So those are the benchmarks. So when you take that big goal, you want to chunk it down into the smaller parts. That's what we were just talking about with the Z. And then the second part to that is, what are the inputs that are required to go into that in the meantime? Right? Maybe it is hitting specific exercises. Maybe it's hitting 5 workouts a week. Maybe it's hitting 4 workouts a week. Maybe it's hitting 200 grams of protein a day or 150 grams of protein a day. Then I encourage you to come up with the 3. And by the way, you know, if you're not sure, you're like, hey, Grant, like I have no idea, right? That's where you'd want to talk to a coach or professional. And it can be us. It doesn't have to be us. You want to come up with a plan with tangible action steps. Right? Because the only way to accomplish big goals is to break it down into smaller bite-size chunks. So I'll give you a second, and then I just have a couple quick closing comments. And I have a call at 7:30. Connor may have a couple minutes for Q&A. My quick wrap up here is, wherever you're at right now is fine. And also, you're capable of more. You as a human, as someone that showed up for this call saying, hey, I want to invest in myself. I know I can be better. You're built for progression. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to the people that you care about. You deserve it. You can be great. And I'm fired up to see the evolved version of you, whatever that is that you decide for yourself. That's what I've got for today. Connor, if you want to lead some Q&A or if you have any closing comments, I'll pass things over to you quickly, and then I will have to bounce. If anybody has any thoughts, you're welcome to text me, message me on Instagram, whatever. Happy to chat, happy to jam.
Absolutely. Cool. Grant, thank you. Yeah, I was going through that. This is great. Yeah, I'm happy to be able to stay on. I want to be respectful of people's time. We had this scheduled till 7:30. So if you're like Grant, you have a call after, or you just need to jump, totally okay. I'm willing to be able to take as much time as needed to be able to stay on for Q&A. So if you happen to have any questions, great. If not, again, thanks for joining. There's no ask here at the end. Like I said, that we just want to be able to provide value. We'll host these calls from time to time. And so we're happy if you're not a current client, or if you are, happy to have you join as we continue to host these. And we appreciate you taking the time out. So with that, have a good one if you're heading out. If you have any questions, happy to answer those as well. If you want to stick around and see what questions are there, you can do that too. But again, we appreciate you joining.